Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Tuesday, February 10th meeting of the Plymouth Select Board. I think the echo is gone now. A quorum being met, I'll call this meeting to order. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, any person may make a video or audio recording of any open session of the Select Board after first notifying the chair and subject to the reasonable requirements of the chair so as not to interfere with the conduct of our meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. At this time, I'm only aware of the local scene recording. Is there anyone else in the audience who's recording? Seeing none, I'll move on. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and signed into law on March 28, 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote and in-person means. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by tuning into the local scene, government cable access channels Comcast 9 or Verizon 47. You can watch the meeting as it's aired live, both on those channels and on the local scene's website. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so by appearing in person here at the Great Hall at Town Hall, 26 Court Street in Plymouth, Massachusetts, or remotely by clicking the link on our agenda, which is posted on the website. Please join the board in the pledge to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're joined here by our legislative delegation, and unless there is any objection from my colleagues, I know that these folks are busy, so I'd like to take the agenda a little bit out of order so that they could give their presentation. Come on up, folks. We're joined by Senator Dylan Fernandez, Representative Kathy Lenatra, and Representative Michelle Badger. Can you make sure your microphone's on, Dylan?
Okay, is this better? Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for shaking us out of order, and committee members, select board members. I am thrilled to be back before the select board. It's really an honor for me, I know all of us, to represent the town of Plymouth, historic, beautiful community, and I really value also just our partnership, having good relationships with each and every one of you, and the collaborative work that we do together to support the town, I think is more important than ever. So really value that working relationship with the board, and then with the town manager's office as well. We'll give a brief update and happy to take questions as well. But we're about a year into this session, and in this legislative session, we've been able to secure a number of earmarks for town of Plymouth, secured 20 in total, and legislative earmarks just for the town of Plymouth, bring in over $1 million for various things. Of course, the town manager's office sent their priority around getting funding for Spooner's Alley, which we were happy to do, but then also funding for a van for veterans now at the new Veterans Center, funding for a planning grant for creating a veterans home here in Plymouth, which is something that I think we need to pursue. Something I saw, we have 2 on the Cape, and when I came to Plymouth and saw there wasn't one, that seemed like a big gap worth filling. A good amount of money for the schools, $100,000, Plymouth Educational Foundation, other places, and of course a lot for tourism, $110,000 for the town for tourism, different places, including $25,000 for downtown waterfront district right here. I won't go through all the earmarks because there's several more, but that just kind of underscores, I think, how committed we are to giving this town support, and we're going to continue to do that, and proud of our accomplishments to bring funding to the community. But talking about downtown, one thing that we've been working on with the town is this DCR property, and so we're pursuing a town takeover, if you will, of a portion of the DCR property. Thank you, Vice Chairman. and Mr. Bletzer. And I know that everyone is, this is something that's widely supported. We've looked at, I won't go too much into the details, been happy to answer follow-up questions on this, but we've looked at several options. The one that seems to make the most sense that is being pursued actively is a very long-term lease agreement. The town doesn't have to give up financial assets in order to have that. And so I think from a financial standpoint and a flexibility standpoint, that makes the most sense. And we recently had a meeting last week on that. The groups are coming back together in about a month with a proposed lease agreement to take a look at. And then this is actually something that is also legislatively approved. So we would file it and pass it into law. So it gives it that final kind of weight as well. So happy to talk nitty-gritty details on that stuff, but for the purpose of this discussion, it's something we've been actively working on, that's moving forward, and they're working together on putting the final touches on a very long-term lease at the moment. Talking about that area, kind of downtown, we were proud to, all of us support the $1.5 million for the Seaport Economic Council grant for the town, or the state pier, in terms of funding. I think this is a really important asset for the town and thinking about economic development downtown. And I think we should have a discussion, this being the first step, securing funding to update it and make really needed renovations. But I think we should also have a discussion about perhaps bringing a tourist ferry down here in the summertime from Plymouth to Boston. I think that's a worthwhile conversation. This is something that's really successful over in Provincetown. Obviously, there is a Provincetown Plymouth connection right now, but I think this would really be something worth exploring to drive more economic development and financial support for the local community. On the transportation front, we were really pleased to double the amount of roads and bridges funding coming to the town of Plymouth this past year. So, the previous year it was 1.6 million. This past year, we brought up to 3 million. One of the things that, we've been working on for a long time, I'm a co-chair of the Rural Caucus with Joe Comerford, who's out, she represents way out in Western Mass, but around including road miles in the formula for road funding to help our more rural communities. Plymouth probably has more road miles than any other community in the Commonwealth, I'd guess. So, this I think helps balance that formula a little more and balance it more in our direction, particularly the town of Plymouth's direction, which I think is, really important. We did a SUP budget as well, where we got money for all of us for the hospital here, BID Plymouth, $800,000, which was a good kind of piece in a SUP budget. And I know there's some really good work going on over there and upgrading the emergency department. From a budgetary standpoint, it's a long process, but I'm sure you guys have seen, because she announced this at the Mass Municipal meeting, which is where we heard about, or at least I heard about it too, was, the governor comes out with her preliminary budget, but she did announce a 4% increase in local aid, a good deal of that going towards Chapter 70 support, 2.5% increase in UGA, the unrestricted aid that municipalities receive. And so this is the beginning of a conversation, a many months long conversation. So that, the Gov files her budget. My good friends here in the House take it up in the next couple of months, and then we take it up a month after them in May. Then the two branches come together, work out the differences between the two budgets passed, and then that gets signed into law by the governor, and usually with a couple of vetoes that we consider as well. So it's a long budget process. This is the start of it. Of course, welcome all and any feedback and engagement and partnership in that. I was pleasantly surprised around the increase in local aid funding. This is a tough budget cycle for us. We get about $600 million less from the federal government this year than in years past. And we have some real headwinds coming when it comes to the big beautiful bill that passed, in terms of there's about projected to be about 300,000 Massachusetts residents that are going to lose health care, another 100,000 are going to lose food benefits. What do we do as a Commonwealth to help bridge some of those gaps is a really important question that's going to be lingering over us in probably the next budget cycle, because they kick in right after that. So there's some headwinds coming there, and that's why overall this budget, I think you're going to see it's a pretty conservative proposal. Good news is, at least for January, we're above benchmark in terms of the revenue that's come in the state by several $100 million. That's a positive, but Massachusetts, really April is our big month, because it's tax month. A lot of the revenue for the state comes from income and corporate tax that gets filed during that period. So that's our big month to take a look at. But good news so far, at least this calendar year, from a budget perspective. Legislatively, for Plymouth, a few things. We passed through the Senate the elections bill that the governor filed on your behalf a couple weeks ago. That's now, my House colleagues are now taking that up. And then these guys, I'll let you guys talk more about all the home rule petitions, but one bill that these guys have already championed and really worked hard to pass was around the town charter bill, and now that landed in the Senate, I believe, last week. So we're going to be working on passing that. Upcoming legislation, it's going to be a busy few months. So would love, the town's partnership here in ways that we can improve some of these bills and really think about how we can add Plymouth to them. So we're going to be taking up a big environmental bond bill. This is something that we haven't taken up in a while. Actually, it's been like 7-8 years. So this is a good opportunity for us to look around Plymouth and think about projects we want to put into the bond bill. Is that bike path support? Is that cleaning up, supporting estuaries? Is that, money for the bay? It's something worth thinking about in terms of big projects the town is looking at and what we might be able to file as bond bill amendments. So let's keep an open dialogue on that. We're going to be taking up a big energy bill. Energy costs way too high in the state. So we're going to be taking up a bill that looks at reducing energy costs. Housing costs way too high in the state. We're going to also be taking up housing legislation that builds upon the really big housing bill we did last session. And then we're going to be taking up an economic development bill as well. So that's a bond bill. We can also be thinking of a little bit more like the environmental bond. On the economic bond, we can thinking a little bit more about local projects that we might want to stick in there. Maybe that's funding for the rest of the state pier. Maybe that's, it's something where let's just have an open dialogue around that on legislative ways we can carve out earmarks and amendments for the town of Plymouth. So that's, I've gone on for a little while here. I'll stop there. Happy to ask questions after these guys are done, but it's a real honor to be able to partner with good legislative partners who really work hard for the community, and Kathy Lenatra and Michelle Badger, who work hard really every day on the House side for Plymouth. And I'll turn it over to you guys for a home rule update.
Perfect. Thank you again for having us. Really happy to be here to be able to give an update. I know we try to keep you as updated as possible as a board or as chair and vice chair of what's happening with the home rules. And so just to give publicly, we have H 2749, which is an act relative to the town of Plymouth harbor master and employees. I should probably back up and say a home rule, for those of you at home who might not know, is something that the town has passed through through town meeting, and that's then sent to us, and then we file it as legislation. So it's nothing that we've come up with on our own. It's from the town to us to the state. And so the first one is the harbor master employee. This one is asking, and I think it's the second time it's been filed, and it's asking for our harbor masters to be included in Group 4. And this bill is currently in the Joint Committee on Public Service, but we've had lots of conversations with the chair, and so hopefully we're feeling good about it. We'll see where it ends up, and but we'll keep asking the questions and answering the questions as needed. And everybody's been really great when we've needed additional information, which we have through this process. And then we've got H 4510, an act relative to digital legal notices for the town of Plymouth. That again, this bill would allow the fulfillment of legal notices publicized in a news, not just in a print newspaper, but also digitally online. And that one right now is in third reading. So it's really close in November, and third reading is where they really take a look and make sure that nothing in the bill contradicts something else in Mass General Law or something along those lines, to make sure it's really strong and has legs to stand on. But there's also not a companion bill, but a bill that's also filed in the House that myself and Rep. Davis have filed that asks for this to be across the same concept to be across statewide, so that any community would be able to have the opportunity to have digital legal notices. So that's exciting, and we'll see where that goes. And then we've got H 4887. This is our newest home rule, was filed in kind of mid to late December. And it's an act authorizing the town of Plymouth to establish a special revenue account for land acquisitions. As you all know, it would be used to purchase open space, recreation, and other town purposes. So this one is in the Committee on Municipalities and Regional Government. But we'll let you know when we hear about if there's testimony needed, if there's a written or a in-person hearing. So we'll let you know as that kind of process, but that's where we are with that. It's so new in kind of its life cycle. So I'll turn it over to Cassie.
Yes, thank you, Rep. Badger. For those that don't know me, I'm State Rep. Kathy Lenatra. I represent North and West Plymouth, so 5 precincts here in Plymouth. And Plymouth definitely has home rules. We do a lot of Plymouth home rules. But I will say you've all been so great with them. When we've needed testimony, people have come in to testify. It's been great. So the last 2 that we have is an act authorizing the town of Plymouth to, we already said that one, right? An act establishing the town of Plymouth Land Bank. So it establishes a Plymouth Land Bank, which will be funded through a 2% land transfer fee paid by buyers of real property in Plymouth. Said monies to be used to acquire land for open space, passive and active recreation, create affordable housing, and establish municipal facilities. So right now, that is in the Joint Committee on Housing, and it has a reporting date out of March 18th, so we'll have more on that on March 18th. We sat down with the chairman and we had a discussion of that in early mid-2025. It seems positive feedback from that. They just had to extend some, so it's better than going to study. So we're ahead on that one. The last one we have is H 4501, and that's an act amending the town charter of the town of Plymouth. We already talked about this, did we?
Yes.
Okay, so we're good. But there is one thing I did want to mention that we didn't mention is that Inshore, who you're doing a pilot program with, the town of Plymouth is, Michelle and I have been talking to them about a pilot program for our manufactured home communities. So there are quite a few in Plymouth, and in the whole district that I represent, I have about 10. And what's happening with them is their insurance is dropping them. So we have been in discussions with Insure ourselves, looking at a pilot program, looking at funding through OCPC, hopefully maybe the Plymouth Foundation, some other funding avenues to look into them so they don't lose their homes and they can afford to stay in their homes. But we're here to answer any questions that you have. As the senator said, we're still in the infancy of our budget cycle. We just have the governor's budget, and it will come to us first, as Dylan knows, and then we'll go to the Senate, and then we will convene in a conference committee. But happy to answer any questions.
Thank you all for being here. We'll start with Mr. Quintal.
Thank you all for coming in. I don't know whose hat it is, if it's Mr. Fernandez or Michelle's or Kathy's, but I do know Michelle understands this. So, well, you do say we have a lot of roads. We have a lot of school buses that go all over a lot of these roads. And one of the biggest challenges in Plymouth is transportation of students. You know, if we were regional, we'd get a bigger bite at the apple, and
I would think that the thinking behind that was more area to cover. Well, I think Plymouth covers more area than probably 5 or 6, 7 towns that are regional.
One of my regional school districts.
Right,
That's
exactly.
Exactly.
So in the near future, if you could keep that in your minds,
Can I
or if
just-
you're already working on
Yeah.
that, it's just something that we struggle with here.
It is something that Plymouth struggles with, and I'll let Michelle, because she is the expert, speak on it, but I do want to give some recognition of a bill that Michelle and I filed, was written up today in the Boston Globe in the editorial. So that was a nice little thing that we saw this morning, but I'll pass it to Michelle.
Yeah. So H 513, which is the one that was really basically asking for a circuit breaker to be created. For sorry, a circuit breaker to be created for just transportation, so that there would be money that would be given to school districts like Plymouth that are not regional, but yet they do cover 400 plus miles of road, and those who have, and in 513 itself actually is not just for large towns. It's based on the amount of money that a town spends per child. So that is where it would be kind of based on. And so we've got that, and we also have H 4011, and 4011 is asking, we all see the special education, we see McKinney-Vento, different vans that are taking students to different schools, whether in district, out of district, that costs additional money. And outside of your traditional contract that you set up, if we have a student who becomes homeless or a student who has a placement at a different school, we have to call up and say, tomorrow morning, we need a bus here to pick up little Johnny and bring little Johnny over here, or whatever. And so in doing that, they can charge us roughly, the average is like $250 to $800 per day per child per van. Blows your mind, right? And so for that, H 4011 is really asking for a DESI to say, all right, let's take a look at what a formula should look like and what it should cost, so that'll allow bus administrators, school business officers, anybody who's dealing with the budget to be prepared and ready, and have an idea of how much that bus is going to cost. We want our small businesses to thrive. We want them to be able to, continue to operate. But this also, we need our school districts to be treated fairly, right? And so the good thing on both of those bills, they're in education. For H 4011 will be extended its reporting to March 18th, and hopefully we have started a conversation. Whether or not like these two specific bills are the ones that move forward, we've started a conversation at the State House within the budget last year. There was $100,000 put in for a study that just finished up. And I know that I had conversations with the chair of education, and a piece of that was looking at, they didn't want to touch those bills that have to do with transportation until they saw what the study, because that study looked across the state of Massachusetts. What are the needs? What are the, what are we doing that's right? What are we doing that's wrong? And so hopefully that will inform whatever bill does come out of education related to transportation. So there's still a lot of work to be done, and I will continue to bring it up at any chance I can. As any of my colleagues at the House and Senate will tell you, I'll bring it up anywhere. And you all know too, I'll bring it up anywhere. So hopefully we'll get some sort of relief at some point. Again, it's the long game here. I know the school went out 18 months in advance for their contracts in Plymouth to be smart and make sure there wasn't other ways that they could be thinking about this because of the budget. And, I've had conversations with them in my time on the school committee, and since just really focus on what are those kind of creative ways, and they're looking at those creative ways. We've talked about maybe the county in some ways. We've talked about how do you, can you take part of it in? And I know they're doing a fantastic job really trying to push that forward and make sure that we're using the money of our taxpayers and as well as we can, and we're serving our students. So I'll continue being an advocate on that. Sorry, that's a long-winded answer.
Thank you, and if I may, Mr. Chairman. Dylan, I do also fully support, and glad to hear you bring up about the state pier, and it's in bad shape, we know that, but if we get that where it should be, it could definitely be an economic engine for Water Street. We could take the American Cruise Lines, that was our vision in the beginning, if it was successful, and move it over to there, and now you're talking of a ferry service. And what that does is free up for the lobstermen and the fishermen and the winches over on the other side. So it makes total sense, and I know they'll be happy, so.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
and we need, we need more space for our, it's a balance, but we do need more space for our fishing community as well. And we work closely with the fishing partnership here in town. They're a
Yeah.
regional organization, but we work closely with them and, through that work have set up benefit programs for them. So now they can, get health care more easily because these are all sole proprietors who own their own business, and don't really act as kind of formal employees. So there's some barriers to healthcare access, but through some funding and through some initiatives, we've been working with them to now be able to supply that as well as free and reduced training for their members around safety and the like. So it's good. The last thing I'll mention just really briefly, because Michelle is really the expert when it comes to school bus funding issues in the town of Plymouth. But one thing we've been pushing for and we're looking at doing is taking another review of the whole Chapter 70 formula. And it's really time that we do that. This is a formula, it went into place in the 90s, right? We revisited it with the Student Opportunity Act 7 years ago. So this is a more quick revision than the last one, and it's really needed. The commission, as it's currently being proposed, hasn't passed yet, but it does include school bus funding in the formula, unlike it did in the past. So, let's get this commission passed. Let's make sure it includes that through the process. But I want to, school busing is a part of this. We should also look at how this funding formula is supporting middle income towns like Plymouth. So without getting too much, boring people to death on this, there is a floor in this formula that every town gets, no matter how rich they are. And so Wellesley's of the world are getting, I believe it's 17.5% state funding for their education system. And a lot of towns are at that floor right now, even with the incredibly wealthy ones. And because there's that high floor cap, proportionally, middle income towns are not doing as well as they could be because of that money flowing, no matter what, to that smaller percentage of really rich towns. So, there was some intention around that, rising tide, raises all ships, etc. But we need to look at the proportionality of this and make sure that our middle income towns like Plymouth are getting a greater proportion. And I think there's, some real consensus building around it, because there's towns like ours that are actually feeling that education funding squeeze. And so that's something we're also, I think, really excited about pushing for at the state level.
Well, thank you very much for all you do for our town. I appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody here does. Next year's project, maybe revisiting 40B. I think that needs some serious looking at. And I'm done with that. Thank you.
Mr. Canty?
So, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate all the work that all of you do for the district. I see you guys around a lot, which is good. Just last night, Representative Badger and Lenatra were at a hearing for the ZBA for a 40B in North Plymouth, which isn't even in Representative Badger's district, but I know that she cares about Plymouth a great deal, and so she was there. And Senator Fernandez sent a representative from his office as well. I know you have a much larger district up in the Senate, but if you can't be there, you always send someone on your behalf, and it does really show in your actions that you do care about the community that you represent, or for Kathy and Dylan for one of the communities you represent, since you have multiple. The money that you've brought into the district, particularly in the last year, has made a significant impact. The increase in state aid this early in the process is at least a good indicator, because we've had some bad indicators at the local level in terms of our financial health in the community and where that trajectory is going. So that's, I know it's, as was said earlier, early in the process, but it is a comforting first part of that process to see. And I know from spending some time up at the State House with you that you have good working relationships with the governor, which helps us. Always good to have a seat at the table in the corner office. Yeah, and with Senator Fernandez, doing a lot to keep a health facility in the district open, the Children's Hospital, Papa's open, that makes a big difference in the region. And the House side, bringing that kind of money into the district, the Herring Pond, Wampanoag getting some, High Point getting some, other areas in the community that really make a difference to people's lives. I think that isn't highlighted as much as it should be, I think. But I notice it and I really appreciate it. I'm encouraged by talking about relooking at the Chapter 70 funding. I agree with you that your Wellesleys, your Newtons, even your Hinghams could probably do with a little less, and middle income communities and lower income communities could do with a little bit more because there's only so much money to go around. So that's encouraging. And obviously Representative Badger is probably the only person in this room that knows more about the school budget in Plymouth than I do. You know all of the strains that they're dealing with over there. There's 61% of our budget as a community. So a lot of the unfunded and underfunded mandates that you're well aware of that the state puts on the schools, and then we just have to absorb them. Some of them are coming from the feds, but the ones that are coming from the schools, I'm encouraged by your work and had the opportunity to give testimony in favor of your school transportation bill, which I think could make a meaningful impact in the community because we are such a huge community with a limited number of roads going in certain directions that makes transportation very challenging and very costly. And then there's obviously issues with the contracts, their ability to basically negotiate without having to worry about each other. These private companies basically having zones where they'll put in a bid and others won't, and having those unspoken agreements that's only making things worse for us, as well as the out of district. I mean, I think the last budget that you were involved with at the school committee saw a huge increase in out of district transportation costs. So you know how much that affects us. So I'm very encouraged by your actions so far in trying to remedy that. Could you talk more about this manufactured homes? Because we have manufactured homes, multiple of these parks in our community. One of the criticisms we've received in the past about how 40B is calculated is that our subsidized housing inventory does not consider manufactured homes to essentially count in that calculation when arguably they should count. Is there any talk about improving on that metric or anything else you could share? on that?
Yes, thank you for the question, Select Board Member Kitty. So manufactured homes or trailer homes are not considered, as you know, as insurance, real estate, right? They're chattel, they're personal property. So that's
Right.
one part of it.
Right.
Believe it or not, there's pushback from those neighborhoods to be included in that count. Right, there's a stigma, some of them, and there's a stigma attached to that, and been some pushback on that. There is some legislation out there to make it so we'll see how that goes. But the pilot program is specifically for insurance. There's a lot of insurance companies that are no longer carrying manufactured homes, and a lot of them are retiring homes. Here in
Yes.
Plymouth, I think they're all 55 plus, and in
Right.
most of my district, they're 55 plus, including the large one of Oak Point in Middleborough.
Yes.
And some of these folks are on a limited income, they're on a fixed income, and when their home insurance is doubling, sometimes tripling, it's difficult to keep the lights on and pay your home insurance. So this is a pilot program through Insure, who I met through the Blue Economy Conference, and we've all met with the principals there, and they were very interested in it, and they've been doing their research and trying to find ways, innovative ways to insure these neighborhoods.
Okay, that's good. And as you saw from the neighbors' response to the 40B in North Plymouth
Yes.
last night,
Yeah.
that several members of this board were also in attendance to
they were,
observe,
yeah.
like 40B as it's currently arranged and that statutory scheme is causing significant consternation in Plymouth and a drain on resources. We've had even the ones that go forward as well as the ones that are threatened, particularly in South Plymouth, in Representative Badger's district, where we were able to stave one off earlier this year, but where that's the area where people are going to be scooping up land with the 3-acre zoning to build more of them in the future. And that's, a lot of those areas are not, we do have a lot of roads, but they're not built for that type of development. They're built to accommodate 3-acre zoning, not high density. So I do think that looking at that and re-examining that would make a meaningful difference to
No, I agree.
the community.
I agree.
Okay, and in terms of this, I guess would be, because Michelle lucks out and getting in the first Plymouth district is entirely within Plymouth, so that's very fortunate, but for the other, we're facing some budgetary challenges in Plymouth in recent years, and we've heard a lot about the budgetary challenges in the news about what other communities are going through on the South Shore, but particularly for Senator Fernandez and Representative Lenatra that represent other communities. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you're hearing from our counterparts in some of these other towns and how they're dealing with that?
Yeah, I think it's, and you see this with some towns on the Cape as well. But basically, a lot of costs are going up. And if you guys have probably seen healthcare costs countrywide have gone up, but also state and local. And so that's having a big impact on budgets. I think that's one of, if not the largest driver. That combined with some economic growth issues is kind of a 2-factor piece that has caused some budget constraints in some communities. As I know this board knows this, but getting your commercial rate, really working to not put tax burden on local citizens as much as possible is really important. So, being smart about zoning so that you're encouraging more commercial, so that you get more business development in town, so that so that you're not putting all the burden on residential, who are mostly, a lot of people. Plymouth is a more elder community. A lot of people are on fixed incomes. I think that's a really important piece to do at the local level. Something also it might be worthwhile considering is a residential tax exemption. So you should take a look at, I don't know, but I think you guys should take a look at how many second homes you have in Plymouth. And obviously it's not the Cape in terms of second homeowners, but this is a tourist community, and there are some pockets with a high percentage of second homeowners.
Right.
So, I think that's at least worth taking a look at, so that you can, give some relief to residential homeowners. There are many towns that have done this on the Cape side, and it saves local year-round residents a good deal of money, actually. So, at a minimum, I'd say take a look at that, see what the numbers are. You do have a fair amount of Airbnb, short-term rentals, right? So there's got to be, I don't think it's insignificant. Maybe it won't, I don't know if it's going to solve your budget problems either, but I would, I'd take a look. And then, there's interesting debates going on currently about the healthcare increases. A lot of this is actually driven by the GLP-1 drugs.
Right.
So there's some interesting debate going on right now at the state level, and I think at the local level too.
Yes.
Around what that means. Are there certain exemptions there that can be looked at to kind of try to lower healthcare costs, so that ultimately you're not, cutting services and jobs from people. So I think that's a worthwhile thing to take a look at, that I know that we're grappling with at the state level and other communities are looking at too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do think that examining that type of residential exemption to benefit year-time residents would be worthwhile. I think, having lived here my whole life, I think there was a decrease in seasonal during COVID. I think a lot of what were once seasonal rentals turned into people's full-time year-round. But I do think that running the numbers and going through the exercise would still be beneficial to look at that for.
Boston has it too, you know, it's
Right.
not just the Cape communities. I think
Right.
there's some communities out in the Berkshires that have it. So, you know, you guys are known for having, you know, it being a
Right.
beautiful beachside tourism community. And so I'd take a look. This is easy data, I think, to find too.
Yes.
I'm sure the town can easily access it. And then you can get some, you know, decent numbers about what it would mean in terms of saving
Right.
residents some money.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Iaquinto?
First of all, thank you all so much for taking the time to come and talk with us tonight. I too see you all over the place, so I'm glad that you landed here for a few minutes anyways and gave us this great update. And I do also join my colleagues in thanking you for all of the wonderful work that you're doing for Plymouth. And I know you always are out there fighting for us and with Plymouth's best interests in mind. My question's a little bit broader than this. I know I'm very concerned about what's happening at the federal level, especially with, certain states being targeted to cut or freeze funding. And I know that Massachusetts has dealt with that. We had $600 million cut from our budget. I'm just curious, as we look out into the future, and are there any legal actions that are being taken or other strategies to try to mitigate some of that or to reverse some of those cuts and frozen funds that seem to be looming out there?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you. So I'm the chair of Federal Funding Policy and Accountability, the House Chair. And when I tell you that my head is constantly spinning, it's constantly spinning. Things change from when I read an email in the morning until when I leave at night. We've had several hearings where there have been museums, libraries, hospitals, everything where the federal funding has not, they've already received it and then it's clawed back, right? So the projects have already started. And as we see in New Jersey, I believe, the money that was taken for the bridge or the tunnel that they want to do. As for lawsuits, I feel like the Attorney General, and Dylan may know more about this too, is filing a lawsuit every week, you know, against the federal government. So I can't give you any concrete answers because we don't have any. You know, we think we do and then it changes again. But we do have hearings. We've had quite a few hearings. Michelle, actually, Rep. Badger's on that committee as well. We've had quite a few hearings and briefings. We're meeting with DTA in the next couple of weeks to hear about SNAP benefits and in the cutting and with, you know, all about food insecurity. We'll go into healthcare in the month after that. But happy to keep you abreast and put you on our newsletter, our federal funding newsletter, and I can send that to the board.
That would be great, because obviously that has a trickle-down effect
It
here. And
does,
as we're
yep.
starting to ramp up our discussions about how to approach our own budget here, it's really important to keep in mind what's happening not only at the state level, but also at the federal.
And I wish we had clear answers for that. I really, every time we think we do, it changes.
I asked the question knowing that I probably wouldn't get a clear answer, but just to know that there is thought and work being done about it is helpful. Thank you.
And I think one thing to add to that is that if you go online, the Attorney General, and I can send the link, she just sent it out the other day, but she actually has like a dashboard. You can see all the kind of cases and what's happening with them. You can follow it. So, yeah.
You can also follow along with all the cuts too. So the state administration has a dashboard with all of the cuts. So it's 600 million to this year's fiscal budget, but it's several billion in terms of cuts to the Commonwealth, not just our state, but our institutions. So billions of dollars in cuts in healthcare funding to our health institutions. NOAA fisheries in our district, our state senate district, they're being decimated. Cuts to cancer research going on at our colleges. I mean, really just devastating cuts. They were looking at trying to cut funding for the Cape Bridge project as well. One of the bright spots in the Attorney General's lawsuits has been around, at least in Massachusetts, around transportation funding. We've been able to get all of that funding back, or at least not contested after winning the lawsuit. So that's a bright spot. But I think people should know that Massachusetts, we, more than any other state in the nation, subsidize the federal government. We, per capita, it's $4,800 per person in Massachusetts that we give to the federal government, more than we get back. And on a per capita basis, that's more than any other state in this entire country. So we subsidize a lot of the failing states, the poorer states across this country, and we subsidize the federal government. And so I think it's, I think a lot of these actions are not only unlawful, but also just morally and economically wrong, with us being the absolute economic engine for a lot of this nation.
Mr. Cohen?
Thank you to the delegation and all your hard work. And I have a chance to get around the community, get to meetings, hear from different people. And I always hear very good things about how you're very interactive with this community. So that is very reassuring as we kind of navigate through this. I think it's important to note what we just heard from the state senator, and that is Massachusetts is paying more into this process than it's not as if we're asking for something that we didn't already give them. So it is very frustrating for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in terms of what we bring to the table and what we're receiving back from the federal government. So that's obviously going to be something that the delegation and the governor are going to have to deal with in the next budget year, but keeping us informed how we make our decisions will be very helpful. The other thing I wanted to just talk about quickly is Deb this past week was able to host with the Department of Energy and Environment an educational opportunity with the residents of Plymouth about their Eversource bills and how we can get a handle on that individually, providing one-on-one consultation with residents. So I want to thank you for making that event happen in Plymouth, and Deb too, for your efforts to work with the department here in the town of Plymouth, the Department of Energy and Environment. The thing that was brought up and it was touched on, and it's one thing that I've experienced, and if I could make any avocation to my state delegation, it would be around this housing question around 40B. I served on the planning board for a number, as an alternate for a number of years. I served on the zoning board of appeals. And in that capacity, I had to sit on these cases for 40B. We're seeing one the other night in North Plymouth. It's terribly frustrating. The frustrating thing for me has been, it's the same experience that I had 25 years ago going to a meeting about 40B, that we need to do something on the state level to modernize 40B for the 21st century. Because this bill was designed to deal with people moving into the suburbs and making sure suburban housing was affordable. So we haven't been able to revisit that piece of legislation and aggressively reboot it so that it's really creating affordable housing. Because there is a housing need, but the way they go about it is just not taking into consideration all the community's needs as it comes to the cost of services, what I often talk about. But I just want to make that one avocation. My fellow board members have stressed a lot of points that I agree with, so I'll let that stand. The one thing I will say is that, I just want to put it on people's radar that we have this Memorial Hall in Plymouth, and we've been talking about the future of this building. And we know it's going to take a team effort between our state delegation and maybe even our federal delegation to get this facility operating the way it should. So I just want to put that on people's radar. And I do like the idea. I know Mr. Quintil and other board members over the years have been working with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts when it comes to DCR and our waterfront and our Memorial Park. So I like the idea of a commuter tour, a tourist boat, because this is not a new concept to Plymouth, because if you go back in history, you'll see that Plymouth had quite a few boats going between Boston and Plymouth for tourist reasons. If you go down to the Rock, you'll see an electrical box, and it's shrink wrapped with a postcard around 1880 where people are climbing off the Pilgrim paddle boat coming down from Boston. So it's not a new concept, but we should reboot it in terms of getting to the South Shore and seeing Plymouth. So I commend your effort on this returning of a tourist boat to Plymouth. I think that's a concept that hasn't been looked at for some time. So keep up the good work, and thank you very much.
Well, I'll add my thanks to the chorus here. I hate to continue to bang the drum, but 40B I think is something that's really important to this community. Folks have seen it firsthand over the last several weeks. I think, and it's not unique to Plymouth. I work across the Commonwealth and really across New England. What I see in many of the towns that I work in is that when there's a major 40B development that's being proposed, it tears the community apart. It pits the residents against their elected representatives when we don't have a lot that we can do about it. And they look to us for some sort of relief, some sort of advocation on their behalf. And we do that to the best of our abilities. But it's really challenging when and it's frustrating when we go through a process that says, hey, this is not right for us, and then it goes to the state and the state just says, check the box, you pass the criteria. I think there needs to be some recognition that communities like Plymouth, and I think I don't know if we're but we're among the fastest growing housing markets in the non-cities across the Commonwealth. We should be incentivized rather than punished with the 40B law. So I'd really like to see some discussion about that at the state level. Rather than imposing a 40B on us, find ways that we can make decisions for ourselves. If there's a way to incentivize communities like Plymouth to add to their housing stock, rather than saying you have to do this and you have to bear the cost for all of it. So that would be the only thing that I would add to the discussion as well.
Yeah. Yeah, 40B is a bad law. It is, the challenge, and it's been on the books, I think, like before I was born, right? Like the challenge with 40B, and we've tried to, we voted to add, Kathy and I voted to add, Michelle wasn't there yet, voted to add, trailer park homes to be included in 40B as like a really narrow, small manufactured homes, my bad, to
I do it all the time. Just being
to the, thanks Kathy. This is the partnership that I'm fortunate to have. But even that really narrow piece was voted down, even though we lost pretty overwhelmingly. The challenge right now, and we've been fighting this fight for a long time, and have been really up against it, is that we're in such a housing need right now statewide, and I know that's really felt here in Plymouth, that the pushback is that unless we're doing a lot more on housing, we can't be taking away things that support more housing. That's the pushback we get, because we've been just we've been pushing even just modest tweaks on this, because it's a bad, I couldn't agree more. It's a bad law, really strains communities. I did, when I first got here, I did mention that the communities, so I think, a worthwhile effort is getting to your 10%. So I have represented 2 communities that have gotten to their 10%. The only thing that distinguished those communities from the other ones is they both hired a housing coordinator focused on getting to their 10%, and they got there. And so the town of Nantucket, which an average house cost of $6 million, got to their 10%. And the town of Falmouth is now at their 10%. They have a housing coordinator. Even if you don't hire one, I think it's worthwhile to have conversations with those housing coordinators about how you get to that 10%. Because then you can stop 40Bs, and then you can come to the negotiating table with developers on something that meets the community needs, and you have so much more leverage in that process. And so I would encourage that. One of the things, that we saw that they did, and which I mentioned when I first got in here, I don't want to take too much credit for it, but was that, the housing coordinators that came in and they identified, several percent of housing stock that the town just wasn't even counting towards 40B. And I think after I mentioned that, I think the town went and did their own assessment, and bumped you guys up like 2%. So you're not that far away from your 10%. And so look, we'll continue to fight here, but we've had these battles even on the margins, and it's been really tough. And so I do think it's a worthwhile cause to get a clear path going on how you get to that 10%, so you can have so much more leverage and power as a community in dictating terms of development. So that's, I agree. I really don't, I think this is a bad law, but I just want to be realistic too on, some of the battles that we've faced and some of the efforts that we've seen in other local communities to get there so that they can better negotiate, down some of these proposals too.
Yeah. I hear you about the housing market. I have my real estate license. I know other board members and even some of you folks have your real estate licenses too. Massachusetts is in a housing crunch. Our housing stock is still at, record low rates at this point in time. But Plymouth is meeting the need, both in terms of affordable housing and market rate housing, at a rate that other communities aren't. So, I don't know if there's a path forward for creating incentives rather than simply, using the stick against communities. But that's something that I'd like to see pursued.
Oh, yeah,
Affirmative.
of course.
So that's something I worked on with Lee Hartman and the Lieutenant Governor too, stressing that really Plymouth should be a postcard for new housing in new units. And working with Lee and Lieutenant Governor, there were some things that they could do that did help you, but I do agree that it should be incentivized. And there is legislation that I filed with another former town planner, Kristen Kasner, Rep. Kasner too, that says exactly that towns that are producing should be incentivized instead of penalized.
That's great.
Just
Thank
wanted
you.
to throw that out there.
Mr. Cohen?
No, just to, Mr. Golden, you bring up a good point about a town like Plymouth and that it's, should be getting credit for its efforts. I look at the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, and they control this SHI number you just referenced and getting a good count. I think it's a formula that we should revisit too. I know Kathy and Dylan have worked on legislative initiatives with 40B to get a count of our the manufactured homes. I know that Senator Murray, years and years ago, I remember her 20 years ago talking about how important it was to try to see if we could get legislation changed around 40B. She was talking about this years ago. So I know it's been an ongoing battle on Beacon Hill. But one of the things I'd ask you to think about is the formula that they're using to count the SHI number. I think that places like Plymouth, we don't get credit for some of the units that we create that are for demographics outside of that parameter. Sometimes we go after demographics that really don't qualify. They're really in a housing crisis, and we're trying to move them into congregate living or some type of living situation that Mass Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities doesn't credit. We're building these units. These are people that are the most vulnerable people in our society when it comes to housing, where they could end up on the street. And I think it's difficult to comprehend why we can't get that credit when we spend that money to address that problem in our community.
We can look, because Secretary Augustus has been down meeting with us in Kingston and in Plymouth, so
Okay.
maybe we can get another meeting there and discuss that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Well, thank you folks for being here tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll move back in order. We'll start with licenses. We have 2 licenses, a one-day wine and malt and an amplified music permit. Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion to approve the 2 listed licenses as a group.
Mr. Canty makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Iaquinto seconds. Is there further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yeah.
Mr. Quintel?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Myself, yes. We'll move on to administrative notes. There are 4 notes. Mr. Cohan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take administrative note 3 out of
Out of the group.
the group.
Anyone else?
If no one wants to move any of the others separately, I would make a motion to approve administrative notes 1, 2, and 4 as a group.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion on items 1, 2, and 4? Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mr. Quintel?
Yes.
Mr. Canty,
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Mr. Cohan on item number 3.
I just wanted to bring the board's attention and the community's attention to the appointment that we're going through right now for the Historical Commission, and that is newly formed by Fall Town Meeting. It is a committee that has been formed. We did reserve 2 seats on that. The Select Board supported expanding the committee to include 2 people from the Wampanoag tribe community here in southeastern Massachusetts, and Mr. Harding and Mrs. Silva will serve in that capacity. I hope you had a chance to read their resumes. They are very qualified. So I just wanted to take the time to recognize this commission and these new appointments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohan. Is there any other discussion on item 3? Mr. Canty?
I think adding, 2 designated appointees referred from the Wampanoag tribe was a positive step, and I look forward to further collaboration between the town and the Herringbone Wampanoag tribe, hopefully in the future, as we will no doubt discuss in coming months.
Pleasure of the board.
I'd make a motion to approve Administrative Note 3.
Mr. Cohen makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Mr. Canty seconds. Any discussion? Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Quinto?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Myself, yes. We'll now take public comment. Is there anyone in the room who would like to register a comment with the board? Is there anyone online? Very good. I'll now turn things over to Mr. Dennis Sampson, the chair of the Plymouth Housing Authority, to open his meeting so that we can share a joint meeting together. Mr. Chairman. Is your microphone on?
There we go. I'm wondering, do we have a quorum? Is there anyone online? We do. Okay. So we do have quorum, so I will open the meeting of the Housing Authority.
Very good, and welcome to our friends from the Housing Authority. Tonight, we are reviewing applications for a one-year term on the Housing Authority. It's not truly a one-year term. It's expiring this May 15th. We had 7 applicants. Mr. Barnaby Bosanquet withdrew from consideration. So we will go down the list and hear from each of those who are still interested. We'll start with Dr. Andrea Barnes. Is Dr. Barnes in the room? Is Dr. Barnes online? Dr. Barnes, if you wouldn't mind, when you've joined, if you could unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the board and the Housing Authority.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can, but if you could get closer to the microphone, that would help.
Okay. Yes, I'm Dr. Andrea Barnes. I was interested in the Plymouth Housing Authority. My background is very consistent with the activities of the Housing Authority. I'm a psychologist and a lawyer, have worked in municipal law, disability law, and have worked with my state professional organization around legislation, advocacy, regulatory boards. It's pretty well spelled out in my resume, but I thought I have recently moved. I moved to Plymouth about 6 years ago. I grew up on the Cape and wanted to get more involved in the community. Thought this might be a good match.
Thank you. Are there questions from either the Housing Authority or the Select Board? Mr. Canty?
Dr. Barnes, if you were to be appointed to fill the term, is there anything that the Housing Authority is currently doing that you're aware of that you'd like to see them keep doing, or anything that you'd like to see them start doing that they're not currently doing?
No, this is a learning process for me, and I am interested in learning more about what they are doing.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Dr. Barnes. We'll go down the list. Timothy Barnhart. Is Mr. Barnhart in the room? Is Mr. Barnhart online? Okay, we don't have Mr. Barnhart. Is Courtney Curran here? All right, very good. Come to the microphone, please, Ms. Curran, and introduce yourself to the board.
Hi, my name's Courtney Curran. Getting over a bit of a cold, so excuse the hoarseness. I am a Plymouth resident. I moved here about 3.5 years ago with my family. I have extensive housing experience, specifically in state-aided public housing, but also with housing choice voucher programs, resident service coordination, things such as that. I can go into more detail. Certainly for the things that are on my resume. Some of the things that weren't included in my resume is just a strong call to public service in my personal life as well as my professional life. I've served on municipal committees before, not in the town of Plymouth, but in former communities I lived in the city of Cambridge and in the city of Boston, doing various things for mayor-appointed committees, as well as like kind of the mundane snow and ice clearance that affects us every single day, and also doing planning initiatives around transportation corridors.
Questions from the board or the authority? Mr. Canty?
I do. I just have one question. If you are on the housing board and you're involved with Narrow and the state, are there certain votes that you would not be able to take on our board? I mean, would you have to recuse yourself from some?
Not necessarily. I
Okay.
did already speak with the State Ethics Commission before I
Okay.
put in the application, and so there is a disclosure that I would need to file, of course. And then I would not be able to hold a meeting, say if Secretary Augustus was to come down here. It wouldn't be appropriate since I do work in Secretary Augustus's office. I wouldn't attend that. But I certainly could sign budgets. I could certainly have votes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Canty?
Thank you, Ms. Curran. Is there anything that the Housing Authority is currently doing, if you were appointed, that you'd like to see them keep doing, or anything in particular that they're not currently doing that you would like to see them start doing if you were to be appointed?
I mean, it's a good question. It's a very short appointment.
It is.
So I really see in that short appointment to just making sure that there is a knowledgeable body able to help the Housing Authority make quorum and can be up to speed right away. Housing authorities are incredibly complex.
Right.
And the rules that boards need to follow in Massachusetts are also complex. So I just want to make sure that the Housing Authority is in a good position over the next couple of months. In general, though, what I know of Plymouth Housing Authority's performance is very favorable. And so certainly, yes, I would like to see, tenant rents to continue to be collected, low vacancy rates, high occupancy rates, high resident satisfaction, which is where they are on track right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bring up a great point. It is a short appointment. Would you plan to run for this in the next cycle?
Potentially. I mean, I would be interested. I do want to be more involved in my community. I feel like I took a couple of year hiatus when I moved down here to really sort of, I guess, nest and get settled with my family. But I miss being involved in the community. So I could see continuing potentially with the Housing Authority if that was what was necessary, but maybe also with other things. There's a lot of opportunities in Plymouth.
Luckily, our town clerk just walked into the room, so she can tell you more about what the cycle looks like after this if you are the successful candidate. And whomever is appointed, if you're in the room, you may talk with her. Any other questions? Mr. Cohen?
I think the deadline to get your signatures, 50, is the 27th of March. And we just got a nod. So you have until the 27th of March to get your signatures, if you tend to go that route. You served in Boston, you served in Cambridge on committees that were appointed to addressing housing issues. Could you touch a little bit, like what were they assigned to? What was their scope? Were they associated with housing authorities or housing initiatives?
So the one that was most closely associated with housing initiatives would be the Fairmont Indigo Planning Initiative through the Boston Redevelopment Authority. It was not housing specific, but housing was part of it. I was working on the Upham's Corner Working Advisory Group, coming up with, with my neighbors, with ideas of how to develop along that corridor and along that station, which included housing. We looked at the zoning and the area. It was kind of a strange mix of light industrial and residential bumped up against each other, and trying to find solutions of how to either retrofit existing buildings or parcels or create new things. And I do have to say that we were successful, that there were businesses created out of that. There were more housing units created out of that, and small businesses for light industrial, which was a real need in Boston. There's not a lot of light industrial zoning. Other than that, the City of Boston at the time had a mayor's council for Bostonians under 30, and I served on that specifically in the housing committee, and that was to make policy recommendations to Mayor Menino at the time, to ways to encourage people under 30 to stay in Boston. There was a third of population, but they didn't necessarily stay there and become older Bostonians later on. And Cambridge was a snow and ice clearance committee, so it really wasn't housing focused. It's more living focused. And then I also was on the board of Upham's Corner Main Street, which is an economic development nonprofit.
So you said you were on a snow and ice committee?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. All right, thank you.
It was run by the DPW, and they had brought different neighborhood representatives together with DPW workers to talk about how to encourage residents to clear sidewalks and to get businesses engaged. So it's very wonky municipal stuff, but I'm excited by snow clearance because it really affects you every day. So.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Cohen will speak more about that under new business later on tonight. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Our next candidate is Nina Garcia. Ms. Garcia.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for seeing me.
She's so good.
My name is Nina Garcia, and I just want to thank you all for considering me. I am a 25-plus Plymouth resident and have served in many capacities, stemming back from when I worked with Head Start and the South Shore Community Action Council many moons ago. I've also been employed with and partnered with the Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce, so it's nice to see a lot of familiar faces here as well. And I was very excited to hear about some of the opportunities with the senator and with Ms. Lenatra and Ms. Badger. And I do apologize for my inexperience in this matter, but I just felt like this was a great opportunity for me to get to know a little more of what it takes to be involved in our town's inner workings. And the Housing Authority is such a prominent and vital part of what we do, and is also a vital vertical that I currently work with in my role with Service Master of the South Shore and Restoration. So I thought it might be a good opportunity for me to get a little bit more insight. So much like the doctorates, it would be very much a learning experience for me, and I'm just grateful to be considered.
Questions from the board? Mr. Canty?
Ms. Garcia, thank you. Is there anything that you've seen or are aware of that the Plymouth Housing Authority is currently doing that you'd like to see them keep doing? Or anything that they're not currently doing that you'd like to see them start doing were you to be appointed?
Sure. Again, it's a great question, and one that I don't feel like I could speak to very eloquently, only because I don't know the inner workings of the Housing Authority, and that's something that I'm hoping to gain a better understanding of if I were to get the position.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Garcia, if you were appointed, would you plan to run for this in the next cycle?
If it was a good fit, sure. If I was proven to be of value to the committee and to the team, and absolutely.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Of course.
Would you be willing to expand the portfolio of the Housing Authority? I mean, I think we need more housing, Plymouth housing, and we're talking about adding units and renovating a couple of places. Would that be something that you would be?
I am just in what capacity?
Well, we're going to renovate part of our
Oh, sure, you
old
mean just-
office,
uh,
and we're gonna add housing units. So
Sure.
one thing that I think we should be doing is adding more units, looking for ways to add on to our portfolio.
Sure.
You'd be willing?
Would I support that?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Support
yes.
some, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right,
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you, Ms. Garcia.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Our next applicant is George Washington Hertz II. Is Mr. Hertz in the room? Very good.
Good evening.
If you could just introduce yourself to the,
George Hers.
very good. Questions from the board?
I appreciate your brevity.
No, I mean, I didn't know if you wanted me to say anything or, I mean, usually, but, you know, whatever, okay.
Would you like to say a few introductory remarks about your interest?
Well, you know, it's interesting, and I've benefited from listening to everybody else here, and, you know, what kind of resonated with me was your mission statement, you know, quality, affordable, fair housing for people entitled. I've always been a person who's been involved in the community in terms of my church, or whether it be with homeowners associations, with the Appalachian Service Projects. I feel it's an opportunity, if you have the talents, you got the time, maybe you don't sometimes, but you give back, and that's how you give back. And I've gone to the Zoning Board of Appeals meetings the past few months, like I know people on the board have, and although it's been an extremely frustrating situation, it is a wonderful thing to participate, to see the community, those individuals all passionately, genuinely get together to try to protect the fabric of the community, as well as putting the residents first. You got to find a good, you know, there's frustration. You've seen it. And I appreciate everything you've done. And regardless of, you know, what decision you make, you've got some very qualified people here. That's for sure. That's good. I truly appreciate what you do to try to make this town, which is a wonderful town, a great place to live in. And, you know, as far as work, you have my resume. If you want to know anything else, I can give it to you.
Yes, I'll give you my standard. Is there anything that the Plymouth Housing Authority is currently doing that you'd like to see them keep doing, or anything that they're not doing that you're aware of, that you'd like to see them start doing were you to be appointed?
I don't know any, so I'm too premature. Like some of the other people have said, it's a learning experience for me as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If you were to be appointed, Mr. Hertz, would you run for this in the next cycle?
I've already filed those papers.
Wonderful. Thank you. Other questions? Ms.
Oh,
Iaquinto?
sorry.
Just really quickly, because your resume says that you are in Westboro?
I was in Westboro. I'm not sure which version you have. I live
An
on
old one, I
Musterfield.
guess.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I live on 17 Musterfield.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to confirm. It just caught my eye, so I just wanted to see if you were planning to commute from Westboro.
Could have uploaded the wrong one there.
No problem.
Same info, just change of address.
It's still a very impressive resume, regardless of whether it's old or new. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Our last applicant is Mr. Dan Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, if you wouldn't mind joining the board.
Board. My name is Dan Sullivan. I'm a third-generation resident, homeowner, and taxpayer in the town of Plymouth. And I've applied for this position because we are in the midst of the worst residential crisis in my lifetime, and I'm going to be 60 in 2 months. For those of you that are old enough to remember the movie The Field of Dream, remember the iconic quote, "If we build it, they will come." Well, unfortunately, today our policymakers have inverted that phrase to say, "If you come, then we'll build it." And it's been an epic failure. And so I want to bring some common sense and reason to deliver some truly practical and pragmatic solutions to end what has really been a bad public policy. In terms of my background, I was in business-to-business sales for over 20 years. I worked for Fortune 100 companies down to startups. Through my experience, I developed a knowledge base that was about an inch deep, but it was a mile wide. So I am well-versed on a wide range of issues, interests, and industries. For the past 10 years, I've worked as a registered nurse. I've worked in both community hospitals as well as a correctional nurse in the Department of Corrections. And as a competent nurse, I've developed, really strong clinical judgment to be able to prioritize problems and achieve optimal outcomes for my patients. And in 2024, I ran against a career politician for the congressional seat in this district, and I was fortunate to win over 18,000 votes in the town of Plymouth, nearly 50% of the vote. So I know that there is broad support for my public service, and that's why I come here. What we have here is we have an affordability crisis that's really the result of two things. One is supply and demand, and the other is overcrowded. Mr. Golden mentioned it, we're one of the fastest growing communities, non-city communities in the state. And if you look at the map, everybody wants to live in Eastern Massachusetts. There is no overcrowding problem west of Worcester. You look in Berkshire, Franklin, Hampshire, Hampden, and even Worcester County, they don't have an overcrowding problem. Everybody wants to work and live, not work, but live east of Worcester. And as a nurse, if anybody has ever waited in an emergency room or had a family member wait in an emergency room, there's two factors that drive admissions in a hospital. One is the availability of beds, and the other is the availability of nurses. If you don't have available beds, you're not getting admitted. If you don't have available nurses, you're not getting admitted. And so when I brought back that famous quote from the Field of Dreams, "If you build it, we will come," I think we need to adopt the attitude, if we have room, then you can come. So when Mr. Sampson says he wants to expand housing authority stock, I would support that as long as it's smart. It's smart in its application. And so that's really why I'm here. We talked about 40B, and Mr. Fernandez talked about achieving a 10% threshold. Well, if our population has grown exponentially, but our 40B has grown incrementally, we're never going to achieve the 10%. It's going to be like chasing the horizon. You can pedal as fast as you want. You're never going to get there because the population growth is exponential, but the 40B inventory is incremental. So I come here with common sense and reason, and also a commitment to public service. And so I do appreciate you hearing me out. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Canty?
Mr. Sullivan, if you were to be appointed to this position, is there anything that you have seen the Plymouth Housing Authority doing that you'd like to see them keep doing, or anything that they're not currently doing that you'd like to see them start doing?
Well, the first thing is hearing from Mr. Sampson that you want to increase the Housing Authority stock. So I think that's a good starting point. I'll be candid with you. I do not have all the answers, but I am a quick study. And I am concerned about the balance between building and development. And we've had some really big building projects that have gone on in this town that have really stressed our municipal services. So I think we really need to have smart growth and smart development so that we can sort of level the playing field for both homeowners and renters in the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, if you were appointed here tonight, would you run for this in the next election cycle?
Again, if it's a good fit, If it has to be a mutual fit. If it's a good fit, then I would. It's not about me, it's really about our community and those public figures that put themselves first and foremost, they're in the wrong line of business. That's why I work as a nurse.
Thank you. Any further questions from either the authority or the board?
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much,
All
Mr.
right.
Sullivan. Okay, so we heard from, I think, 5 of the 6 remaining applicants. So each member from the Housing Authority and the Select Board would get a single vote. So what I'll do is I'll call the roll first of the Housing Authority and then of the Select Board. If you could each cast your vote for a single person, that would be great. Well, actually, first, is there any discussion on the matter?
Excuse me? Do any of the other board members have any discussion? I mean, I think we have a lot of great candidates, and I'm glad that I don't have to make this decision alone. It's really, there's a lot of talent that we heard from.
I know Ms. Long and Ms. Riley are online. Any discussion from you folks?
No, I agree with Dennis. There are some really great candidates, and I really appreciate the interest and potential commitment to the board and what we're doing.
Thank you, Ms. Long.
I was just saying that since we asked the question to the other applicants, the 2 applicants online, would you be pulling papers to run for this job?
Yeah, so those are members. Sorry, Dr. Barnes, I did start asking the question, if you're still with us, Dr. Barnes, if you were to be appointed here tonight, would you intend to run for this in the next election cycle? She's no longer online.
Okay. All
right. All right. Well, then I'll call the roll. We'll start with the Housing Authority. Chairman Sampson, for whom do you cast your vote?
Tough decision, but I would vote for Courtney Curran.
Ms. Curran. Ms. Vega, for whom would you vote?
Courtney Curran.
Ms. Curran again. Ms. Long, for whom would you vote?
Courtney Curran.
Ms. Curran again. And Ms. Riley, for whom would you vote?
Courtney Curran.
All right. And I'll come back to our board. Mr. Cohan, for whom would you vote?
Courtney Curran.
Mr. Quintal?
Courtney Curran. Excuse me, Curran.
Mr. Canty?
Courtney Curran.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Courtney Curran.
And myself, I'll cast my vote for Mr. Hurst. Ms. Curran, you've been appointed by the joint meeting of the board, Select Board and the Housing Authority. Congratulations. Please get sworn in with the town clerk. She's in the back. She can talk to you more about next steps. You can talk to her now if you'd like to. She's always willing to speak with folks. Mr. Chairman, would you like to call your meeting adjourned?
Yes, could I get a vote could I get a motion to adjourn our Housing Authority meeting for tonight?
I'll make the motion.
Mary Ann made the first and Nicole will second.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone? Okay, we are adjourned for the Housing Authority.
Thank you folks for joining us here tonight.
Thank you so much.
Take care. All right, we'll move back into our agenda proper. We're joined by Doug Pennard from our town's wastewater manager, who's going to give us an update on the GAP 3 energy grant. Mr. Pennard.
Good evening. Doug Bernard, wastewater manager. Thanks for having me. I know that the select board has a very busy agenda. I'm joined here tonight by Patrick Compton. He works with Woodard & Curran, and we are here tonight to update the select board on an energy grant, a GAP 3 grant that we work closely together to update some equipment at the treatment plant. We replaced a motor drive with a variable frequency drive, and I've asked Patrick to prepare a short presentation for the board.
All right. Perfect. Good evening. Thank you for the time. I'll keep this short and sweet. So like Doug said, Pat Compton, I work with Woodard & Curran. So real quick, as you know, we operate the Plymouth wastewater treatment plant. Back in 2020, there was a pilot study done to look at some optimization steps, maybe some energy efficient steps. And what they found from that real quickly was less blower aeration required for that same level of treatment. And they were able to model that with that, there might be able to get about a 28% reduction in electrical use that was achievable. So from that pilot study, some previous work that was completed is there's 3 aeration blowers at the plant, there's 3 sequencing batch reactors. So 2 of those aeration blowers are upgraded, and in 2 of those reactors, instrumentation was implemented. Now the GAP grant is a funding source through DEP, through the state, that looks to kind of finalize that last little gap to finish that. So with this, we're able to install a final VFD in that last blower, and then just some instrumentation into that last reactor. So why this matters, again, and I'll explain in the last slide, but essentially we're looking at an estimate of about $38K per year saved in electrical costs, and that again does translate over into greenhouse gas emission reduction. More robust treatment and performance control for our operators on site. And one of the big things is this project was about $120K. A little hair over 80% of it was through that GAP grant, and the town share was roughly $22,000. So again, quick overview. Objectives was to install that VFD. It's a variable frequency drive. I like to, similarly as a dimmer on a light switch. Instead of just turning the blower on and going 100%, you dim it. You don't need that much air thrown into it. Saves on electrical cost. And then some of the instrumentation that goes into those reactors, you're looking at pH, dissolved oxygen. It just gives you a better snapshot of what's actually going in real time, going on inside that from a biochemical standpoint. Results of all this: 3 instrumented SBRs, all blowers on VFDs. It gives you more precise aeration control, improved energy efficiency, and better control for our operators. So from a completion standpoint, so the instrumentation was actually done back in the summer. I guess on Halloween, we had the VFD startup, and then we had DEP come out, do a site visit, make sure everything was up to snuff. Project costs, like I mentioned, $120K, about 80% from that grant award, just under $100,000, and then the town share was $22,000. So, on our estimates, a good leverage of state dollars to kind of finalize this project. From our estimate and our modeling, we're looking at about 180,000 kilowatts per hour per year saved by implementing these variable frequency drives. That cost saving equates to a roughly 37, just under 38,000 per year. And that reduction is 45 metric tons of CO2 or CO2 equivalents per year. Bottom line, town share was about 22,000. You're looking at projected savings of 38,000. You're going to get an ROI in a little less than a year. That's all I got. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I deeply appreciate the brevity of that presentation.
Yes, sir.
Questions from the board? Mr. Cohen?
If we could get a copy of that present, I know it's short, but.
Yeah,
if you could
absolutely.
Get us, email it over to us so I can get a copy of that, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Canty?
I think, given our medium and long-term revenue concerns, that any opportunity to reduce costs is a beneficial opportunity that should be embraced. So I appreciate the effort. I mean, $37,000 a year isn't going to solve the problems by themselves, but every little bit helps. And this is something that I think makes a lot of sense and is certainly better than your successor in interest did in operating the wastewater treatment plant, without naming any names, but we all know who we're talking about. So thank you.
Glad to do that. Thank you.
I would add my gratitude for any amount of savings. We've seen some pretty late meetings over the last several weeks regarding our current budget situation and our fiscal year 28 situation. So Mr. Canty's right. There's $37,000 isn't going to save us from the fiscal cliff, as it were. But if we can find $37,000 in a variety of places, it can get us some help, so thank
That's
you.
it. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Bernard, don't go too far.
Yeah.
Our next agenda item is a review of Article 6. The next several items are for town meeting articles. Mr. Bernard is joining us again to talk about some budget amendments. Mr. Bernard.
So yes, so I have a few amendments for the current fiscal year. Most of those were driven through chemical costs, those delivery costs for the chemicals, also sludge disposal and the hauling of the sludge. Those were some of the bigger drivers. Those are all costs that I really don't have any control over. They tell me when they're going up. And it's just, I'm working within the budget, and I just want to make sure that with these additional rises in transportation and disposal, and then same transportation and the rising cost of the chemicals for the treatment plant, I wanted to make sure that we stay on budget.
Questions from the board? Ms. Iaquinto?
Thanks, Doug. I'm just curious. So I see these increases here. Were these increases, and I assume that every year the costs increase by some incremental amount.
Yeah.
Was this a larger increase that you've seen in past few years, or how's it trending?
Well, it's very volatile. It's been very volatile really since COVID. I try to maintain a level budget, and I'm very strict. I treat the treatment plant's budget like it was my own budget. So I try to keep a level budget, but as I see things trending up, I get nervous to go over. And I am an enterprise, on enterprise, so system. So I take it very seriously. So I want to make sure that we're trending in the right direction. But to your point, yes, it seems like it's always going up. It hasn't even flattened. It will come down. It's always going up. And I feel that, especially with the sludge disposal, that might be a bigger concern coming in the future.
Thank you.
Mr. Canty?
Doug, thank you for the presentation and the supporting memo. So I assume the answer to this is yes, but the memo doesn't say it, so just to make sure. This is coming out of the enterprise fund? So
Yes.
by either retained earnings or by the current rate being paid by ratepayers,
Yep.
correct?
It's all enterprise, comes out of my retained earnings, yes.
Right, so this isn't coming out of the general fund, raise and
No.
appropriate, this is all
Nope.
paid for by the ratepayers?
Correct.
either this year or prior years. Okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
For further clarification, Mr. Canty's saying that it's not going to hit the levy.
Yes.
Correct.
Correct.
It's not, this doesn't affect taxes, you're only paying this if you're paying rates into the sewer for.
Correct. It's enterprise, like you said, and it all comes out of the retained earnings.
Right, and this is, there have been, not your enterprise fund, but another enterprise fund a few years ago was being subsidized for a period of time, but that's not the.
Lynn's not with us tonight, but I don't know the exact number, but I have a very healthy retained earnings.
Yes, so just because we are dealing with a tight budget situation, I just think when you see a $512,000 budget increase, it's
Right.
important to notice and highlight that this is not coming off of the tax rate.
Good, valid point.
Mr. Cohen?
Not to be, flip about it, but ratepayers are people too. They're out there and they're paying the rates. So I do want to make note that, they're paying these fees, and obviously, having a sewer treatment plant does benefit the entire town, and so we're doing our best. The question I had is on the $72,000 that's to ship material. The solid waste is shipped out of Plymouth.
Correct.
And it's sent to CMass, is that it?
Well, currently we have two that we have contracts with, is Cranston and Woonsocket,
Okay,
the incineration.
so it's shipped out. Now, we do accept, it's the solid waste that's there. It's not only solid waste that's being produced by the ratepayers. Do we take solid waste from we're taking in material from
We
other
do
locations?
take a small amount of, most of our incoming trucking is septage receiving. We do have a small amount of what we call sludge, but it's really not really sludge. It's mixed liquor. It still has to be processed. But we do charge a different rate for that.
So you have people that are going around and pumping private sewer, Title V septic systems.
Correct.
And they're delivering that material to the plant.
Correct.
And then I do see that people can deposit waste at different locations, and the town does, is there any other, where else is the waste coming from? Is it just from the pumping trucks that go around Plymouth? Is that the only material you're bringing in?
We accept septage or sludge from other communities besides Plymouth.
Okay. And how does that arrive here? Is it coming from other trucks? Is that,
Yes,
so it's all septic trucks?
correct.
No other delivery from any entity?
No.
Okay. All right. So, and how much are they charge the town, the companies outside of Plymouth to bring the waste to Plymouth? How much are they charged to deposit that material? Are they charged when they bring it in?
Yes, it's our septage rate is, I believe it's 7.5 cents per ton, and sludge is 8.5.
And how's that number determined?
The select board.
Right. And is there any proposal of revisiting that number at some point?
Yes, we, part of our water and wastewater study, we added that septage revenue into that. And we'll be coming probably again this year to look to update the water sewer rates and the septage receiving rates.
So how much are we taking in? Do you know what the total amount we take in from these septic trucks?
We can average per day up to 140,000 gallons per day.
140,000 gallons a day. Okay, just thank you very much for that clarification.
Sure.
Mr. Canty?
Do you, this may vary, but what does an average truck carry in terms of gallons? Like how many trucks are generating 140,000-ish gallons a day?
Well, most of our haulers, we have a large number of local haulers that their trucks are approximately 5,000 gallons. But we do take a few of those same trucks that could be 9,000 gallons.
So, okay, so 5,000 to 9,000 a truck. Okay, thank you.
Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion to include Article 6 on the town meeting warrant and recommend that town meeting approve it.
Mr. Canty makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Iaquinto seconds. Further discussion? Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Quintel?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you, Mr. Bernard.
Again, thank you.
Our next article is Article 17, Chapter 90 Roads. James Downey, the Assistant Director of Public Works, will be joining us. Mr. Downey.
Good evening. For the record, James Downey, Assistant DPW Director, and I'm here to talk about Article 17, accepting the Chapter 90 funds. This is an annual article authorizing the town to accept funding provided by the Commonwealth through Chapter 90 for the maintenance of public roads. We don't know the exact amount yet, but we do anticipate it'll be similar to last year's appropriation, which was somewhere in the $2,377,409. There is no borrowing needed for this article, and I can answer any other questions you may have.
Questions from the board? Mr. Canty?
Not a question per se, but we did in the legislative update here that we're getting a little bit more, so that's good. But this is just a procedural article that recurs every year because town meeting has to vote to accept the money. So traditionally, this has been one of the least controversial, that we should accept the check from the state.
You would hope. Yeah.
Yes, one would hope so. And we shall see if that holds true once again, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions? Pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to include Article 17, Chapter 90 roads money into the town meeting warrant, and to recommend that town meeting approve it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Very good. Discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Quinto?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you, Mr. Downey.
Thank you.
Our next article is Article 5, unpaid bills. We're being joined by our Human Resources Director, Jackie Gurney. No, we're not.
Hi, I'm Jody Walsh. I'm the Assistant Director of Human Resources.
Hi, Jody.
I'll be speaking on behalf of Jackie Gurney. I'm here to speak about the unpaid bills article. From time to time, there are invoices that are presented to be paid after the fiscal year closes, and that is one of these cases. Due to these invoices being presented to the Human Resources Department in October of 2025, after the fiscal year ended, they were not processed or paid, and that's why we are here tonight, so we can get these invoices paid through town meeting.
Questions from the board? This has been one of our more controversial ones in the past. Mr. Canty, would you like to speak about it?
Yeah, occasionally there's a bill that raises some questions. So, I mean, like one of these is, well, first of all, they're dealing with medical, which is going to be probably a topic of some discussion, medical expenses. But I noticed, one in particular is for an evaluation that the company did on the scope medical bill. They did the evaluation on July 10th, 2024. And then they sent it to us on October 14th of 2025. So it's good to see that they're on top of things over
Yes,
there. at
very
Scope
much so.
Medical.
That's when we received it. You'll see
Okay.
the receipt stamp at the top.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, could you just talk about, without getting into the specifics of who these are for or anything like that, but just these are medical, what these medical bills are essentially for, why we need to pay these bills, and that they're separate from some of our other medical related concerns and expenses?
Yep, so these are medical evaluations from public safety that time to time they come up and they, the employees have to go through this process, and then the bills are presented or invoices are presented to us, and then we would pay them through our medical services line item. But unfortunately, these were not presented to us in a timely manner, so they are invoices that still have to get paid. These are doctors that have been used previously as well. So one way or another, they have to get paid. So that's why we're here tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cohen?
So you see, so these bills encumbered them because you didn't even know they existed.
Correct. We had already gone through the encumber process before, we didn't even know that they existed. And then they came to our department, and there were a couple of other ones that were for this fiscal year that we were able to pay. But these ones were lagging, clearly. So that's why we ended up having to put them in this article.
Thank you.
Pleasure of the board?
I will make a motion to include Article 5, unpaid bills, in the town meeting warrant and recommend that town meeting approve it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Quinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. We're next going to be joined by our town clerk, Ms. Kelly McElrath, who will talk about Article 22, codification of zoning bylaws. Ms. McElrath.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So previously, as you might remember, I asked for funding and we went through the project to codify the general bylaws and it passed at town meeting. And as a matter of fact, I'm waiting, the Attorney General's deadline is this Friday, so I'm hoping to get approval for that. And once the general bylaws are up and running with our vendor on their website, people will be able to search them very easily. I had the opportunity shortly after the new planning director, Lauren Lynn, came on board and said, I think this would be a great project to also do with the zoning bylaws. And she fully agreed with that. So this is funding to begin the process to start the zoning. I've stated previously that it will, if the money was to be approved, we would sign the contract with the vendor. The vendor would take probably at least 6 months or so to go through the zoning bylaws and ask the questions, make sure that nothing conflicts, and then we would have the opportunity to spend some time going through them, looking to see if there's any changes that we would recommend to town meeting to be made, and we'd bring the whole new zoning bylaws to the town for approval. And then they would be up on the website along with the general bylaws.
Questions from the board? Mr. Cohen?
I know that when we were going through fall town meeting, there was some attention put on some of the going throughs and making sure everything was, all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. I didn't know if this time out, is there any thought process of maybe putting together a group of eyes that would be there to edit some of these ideas? I don't know, I just leave it up to you in your office. I'm not here to micromanage what you're doing. I just noticed at town meeting, you were doing all this work and it was substantive and much needed. And now as we move towards the bylaw, we might see if there's a way of including a few people in that process so that we cross our T's and dot our I's.
So when we did the general, there was a subcommittee, a task force or whatever you want to say. It was the assistant town manager, town council, myself, and the assistant town clerk. It wasn't just me, it was the four of us going through and taking the recommendations from the vendor or not taking the recommendation. That being said, with the zoning, I would anticipate having at least those four people in the room and the planning director and probably the deputy planning director as we go through the zoning bylaws to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
It might be an idea to maybe invite someone from the committee of precinct chairs, something like that, just, so they can report back to the larger committee, it might be something like that.
We can, once we get it back, we can figure it out
It's
at
completely
that
up to
point.
you.
Thank you.
Just making
I appreciate
suggestions.
it.
Yep.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Thanks so much for this, Kelly. So I'm just curious, if I were to go in now to search the zoning bylaw, what would the process look like?
Right now, I believe the zoning bylaw is on the planning board's page, and it's a PDF document. So you would have to quote, search it as a PDF.
Okay, so I'd have to go through each one.
Yeah. I've been able to show examples on how it's actually called, the code will work once it's up and running. And I'm sure once that website is up and running with the general bylaws, I'll be more than happy to, if time allows, come back and do a quick demonstration to the board on the website so they can see how it works moving forward. And then I'm hoping that's all up and going before town meeting, so it makes this approval that much easier, I'm hoping.
That's great. So this is significantly improve the efficiency of the whole process,
Correct.
plus make it a much more user-friendly experience.
Correct.
So to me, this is exactly the kind of investment we should be looking at making if it's going to do, especially serve multiple purposes, not only improving efficiency, but also improving the customer experience. So I think it's great.
Great, thank you.
Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion to include Article 22, codification of zoning bylaws, in the town meeting warrant and recommend that town meeting approve it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Quintel?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Our last article of the evening is Article 24, an easement for the White Horse Cemetery. We're joined by our town engineer, Rick Bossy. Mr. Bossy.
Good evening, Mayor and the board. Rich Bossy, town engineer. I'm here tonight to discuss the access easement for the White Horse Cemetery. A little background on the subject. Access to the cemetery has been an issue in the past. In 1971 and 1972, the property around the cemetery was subdivided into a roadway, Cedar Road, and seven residential lots. During this time, a few options were proposed and discussed for access, but ultimately in 1973, an agreement was made between the town and the developer of Cedar Road, Reed and Clerk, to provide a 12-foot wide easement over one of the newly created house lots that would provide access to the White Horse Cemetery. This was presented as Article 54 at the 1973 town meeting, where the motion passed unanimously. However, in 1973, the follow-through to record the easement plan and documents at the Registry of Deeds did not happen. Access to the cemetery was provided through a paved driveway, which also served as a driveway to number 16 Cedar Road. This remained unchanged for 48 years. Fast forward to 2021 during COVID. At this time, the property owners at 16 Cedar Road began noticing a significant increase in people visiting the cemetery. During this time, the owners began to question the town about the access to the cemetery and the use of the existing driveway, which was not built within the easement area approved in 1973. In order to rectify this situation, since the property owners have changed, and to provide clarity and clean title, we are repeating the previous actions with a new town meeting article. If town meeting approves, a confirmatory deed and easement plan will be recorded at the registry. The easement width and location are the same as originally proposed and approved in 1973. Once the easement is recorded, DPW or town contractors will construct an access way to White Horse Cemetery. The DPW is committed to working with the property owners to provide suitable access to the cemetery while providing a fence and or planted buffer for added privacy. In 2025, town meeting approved $192,000 to construct the access way, so the funding's there, ready to go. I'll open it up to any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Mr. Canty?
It's possible that this question may be broader than you can answer, but this isn't the first time that a prior town meeting action to record something hasn't happened. Do we have a sense of if there are any more of these, or are we looking into the possibility that there are unresolved legal steps, whether it be recording or other things for prior?
I know as soon as they're brought to our attention or we see a misstep, we try to address it as soon as we can.
Yes.
But personally haven't been actively trying to search through every town meeting article
Right.
and everything at this point.
Yes. I do think, and again, I understand that it's probably broader than your scope of work, but it is something that the town should look into, because some of these are minor issues, some of them are more significant issues, but, examining that and making sure that there's not these issues would be beneficial.
Thank you, Mr. Canty. I think that is a great project. Now that we have in-house counsel, we have our archivist in Connor Anderson, who has digitized a lot of the town meeting votes. So I think that's a great, worthwhile project to pursue. So I will discuss that with the town manager and maybe create an internal task force with engineering, Connor Anderson, and council to review that, because I think you're right that some reason this keeps happening. So if we can nip it in the bud, it would be a great idea. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Further questions? Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion to include Article 14, an easement for White Horse Cemetery, in the town meeting warrant, and recommend that the town meeting approve it.
Second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Quinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Our town manager is enjoying a little rest and relaxation, so we're joined by our assistant town manager to give the town manager's report this week.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I only have a couple of items. The first one being that Northern Construction has continued construction on Water Street with the sewer project. This week, they started with excavation and installation of sheet piling. And they will continue next week on Tuesday due to Monday's President's Day holiday with installation of more dewatering wells as well as replacement of the pipe. And lastly, I want to let the board know that the town received the Leader in Hosting Risk Management Training recognition from our insurance Maya. We were recognized due to our consistent participation in our safety committee meetings, addressing property, cybersecurity, and workers' comp risk exposures, and constantly engaging the Maya Rewards Program and Grants Program. So I want to give a big thank you to Lynn Barrett, our finance director, and her finance team, but specifically to two people, Michelle Newell, our safety compliance officer, and Tiffany Park, our grant writer, for always encouraging departments to follow safety protocols as well as use our Maya rewards for qualifying purchases, helping us defer those costs away from our budgets. So having said that, that's all I have unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Sylvia. Questions from the board? Mr. Cohen?
I just wanted to point out, I've noticed the town and the Department of Public Works, I believe, is continuing to do its best to clear the roads as it makes its way. I've noticed North Plymouth is the next, and hopefully in their sites, North Plymouth, that was there today. So looking forward to seeing that aggressive snow removal expanded into North Plymouth Center in the business district. So thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and I actually would like to give them a shout out right now because I have a list of the work they've done. Starting on January 25th, we had a snow event with 22 inches. Then from Monday, January 26th to Saturday, January 31st, they were either sanding, removal of snow on school bus stops, pushing back and removal of snow in the corners at night. Then on Sunday, February 1st, then they had another snow event with 2 inches. And then they continued from February 1st to Friday the 6th with more snow removal. Then Saturday the 7th, got another event with 3 to 6 inches. And after that, they started prioritizing complaints that started coming in on C-Click Fix. And then removal of snow on Court Street from Samoset to Olmsted. Tonight, we're expected to get 1 to 3 more inches. And as you mentioned, Mr. Cohan, then after they finish clearing up the snow from this event, they're going to go through the North Plymouth Business District and Court Street tomorrow. But I will share a list of all of the locations that the DPW has been addressing since these snowstorms. And again, I understand it's a lot of work, and I appreciate our residents' patience. But the DPW is doing the best they can, and we are fully committed to, after the season ends, to review our snow and ice operations to see what we can improve for next year.
So the DPW is removing this snow that currently heading towards North Plymouth?
Tomorrow they will, after the snow event that we have tonight, after they're done plowing and sanding with that, then that's where they're gonna go. Their next place is North Plymouth Business District.
No, I just wanted to point out that everyone's working really hard to address the issue. And I'm glad they're moving it to North Plymouth. All right, thank you.
All right, moving on. Select board discussion, new business. Mr. Quintel?
Yeah, I was thinking today that our country's 250th anniversary, and wouldn't it be nice if we could allocate $50,000 to the July 4th committee and $50,000 to the America's Hometown Celebration, a one-time thing this year. And I wouldn't even bring this up without checking with the finance director, which I did. And there is money in free cash there to do it. And that's knowing that DPW will be probably tapping into that because of all the events we've had. And she feels, confident that even with that extra money, there should be plenty for that. I think it leaves like 300,000 They won't be able to put the snow removal on the recap this year because there's not enough room left in the levee. So I just want to stress that. That isn't what this was about, but it just goes back to the point that we were all trying to make, or some of us were trying to make earlier. She said that, could get up at town meeting, make a motion to amend and appropriate, and I just wanted to know how the board felt about it. I mean, the community basically lost 400th celebration here in town due to COVID. The whole country lost a lot. And it just seems the attitude of a lot of the people is very negative. I mean, really, everybody's stressing. And I think it would be a good gesture, just like it was right after COVID. And I just want to also add that neither anybody from the 4th of July committee or whatever they're called, or hometown celebration, asked me to bring this up. I was thinking about it, and I think it would be a nice gesture. And it benefits the people in our town, our residents, as well as our tourists, and it helps the economy.
Mr. Cohen?
I think it's you touch on something that I was noting with a few other people in the community. We're entering into our 250th anniversary as a nation. Here we are in America's hometown, one of the oldest towns in North America, and we should be looking at our our priorities during this period in time. I was thinking about the idea of having a Plymouth 250, where we have some people in the historical community coming to us with some ideas of how we can celebrate this event in a cost-efficient manner, as Mr. Quintal has just indicated. So I do like your train of thought. I would like to couple it with opening up an entity here in the town of Plymouth to look at opportunities to recognize the 250th anniversary of the nation here in Plymouth in a functional, a working group capacity. So it's something to think about.
Mr. Canty?
I would suggest perhaps placing how the town would celebrate the 250th on a future agenda to talk about it and consider both of those two options as well as other ideas people may have, and seeing what we want to do and how much that would cost, the benefits it would receive, all of that, just having it in detail so that it could be vetted in the normal course. I know if we're doing it before town meeting, we have, the time to do that. So that would be my suggestion for next steps to assess those two proposals.
Ms. Quinto?
Yeah, I like that idea. And also, I think it would be helpful if we inventoried some of the other groups in town to see if there were other plans. For example, See Plymouth might have some ideas for ways that we might celebrate the 250th. And there might be other groups that I'm not thinking of, but I'm on the board there, so that immediately popped to mind. So I think if we kind of inventoried everyone and, put together this think tank to focus on the 250th, I think we'd come up with something really cool.
I can put this on a future agenda. Other new business? Letters? Old business? Ms. Quinto?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Energy and Environment team, specifically Mike Cahill, Sarah McCormick, and Felipe Reese, for helping us put together the Energy Forum that was referenced earlier in this meeting. So that happened last Thursday evening, and it was such a great program. And I'm hoping that it'll be the first of a series of community outreach programs that we can do on topics of interest and concern to the community. So I thank everyone who helped to pull that off.
Mr. Canty?
So I wanted to circle back on our workshop. We got an email about a potential date shift, and Just wanted to discuss that and see where we are with that and what the plans were for that. I think we're talking to Mr. Cohan and myself, we both were wanted it to be either televised live or have it be recorded so it could be broadcast in the event that it's conflicting. I think the new dates proposed of March 4th may conflict with the FinCom meeting, but I'm not, depending on their calendar. And, I don't know what their article review schedule, if they're still going to need that date at that point. I know there's not a special this year, but there's a lot in the annual. So, and sometimes they schedule more meetings than they need and then cancel them. But, I think if they're still meeting to do substantive article reviews, they should be broadcast. We have a contract that we can bump anybody off TV. But if in the event that they're still meeting to do town meeting article reviews, I think they should get the live broadcast. And as long as we're being recorded for rebroadcast, ideally on that Thursday night, because I do think it would be meaningful for members of the community to be able to see the workshop and the plans going forward. But I also want to respect the FinCom process.
Yeah, we can definitely make sure that the session is recorded and rebroadcast. We can work with Jade to make sure that goes through. Mr. Canty referenced a date change. Our workshop is being moved up one day from March 5th to March 4th. Unfortunately, I had a conflict that I could not avoid come up, and so I would like to be a part of that. And I asked the board if they would be okay with the date shift, and all four of my colleagues graciously agreed. So we're moving from Thursday, March 5th to Wednesday, March 4th. So I'm in the process of working with Ms. Anderton to lock down a space, and folks have expressed that they'd like to start at 6 o'clock, and that's fine with me. And I will commit to making sure that we get it recorded.
If it could be, if at all possible, given FinCom will probably be in here, 1820 has enough seating. It's like some of the other rooms like Shallop or Roadblock, while we could televise via the Owl, their seating arrangements for people that want to attend are quite limited. And the one in Roadblock quite varied. I've been in there where there is a lot of seating or a decent amount of seating for the size of the room. And then I've been in there when there's none, so.
Yeah. We'll talk about it, and I'll get back to you folks soon. Okay, Mr. Cohen?
Yeah, and also we should start circulating a draft, kind of outline for that evening as we embark on this idea of budget oversight. So we should probably start to draft something and circulate it amongst us, what we want to touch on, make sure staff gets to see it. And so just something to think about as we move towards that date.
Yeah, you folks should have a draft from Mr. Canty.
I think I sent it to, I got it from working with Bill.
Oh,
But I
okay.
think I sent it to you, Derek, and
Apologies.
Jade.
Yes, we will get that draft around. Other old business? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Mr. Quinto makes the motion. Is there a second? Ms. Iaquinto seconds. Discussion? Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mr. Quinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes. We are now adjourned. Our next meeting is February 17th.